the internet reproduces and sometimes even reinforces certain patterns in the public affairs discussion that are persistent in the human being and do not fit well with those prophecies of the cyber utopia. How can we adapt to this environment in which evidently internet is not going to disappear? Let's move to a more citizen-centric view of the internet. Let's stop investing money, time, and other resources trying to force citizens to be what they probably don't want to be. Rational, participative, involved, committed with public affairs, when the huge majority of citizens are emotional and engaged and basically lazy, if you allow me to say it that way, with public affairs.
It took Twitter 1 year to send out 1 billion tweets. So the first 1 billion tweets were sent out in a year. The same number of tweets are now sent out every 3 days. I believe governments and institutions today have the ability and the tools and the opportunity to create news, to not have to always go through intermediaries. I believe the boundaries between being open and being closed have shifted, and the boundaries between transparency and secrecy have shifted.
We're getting there, but there's still a few things wrong, I think, or things that hamper EU communication. Namely, I think it's too often focused on process, not the substance. It's also a lot of times very self-congratulating, and a lot of times just simply incomprehensible and way too navel-gazing in terms of what you're trying to say.
If we mutually explore each other, the public sector and the civil society, we can proactively co-create a media environment which allows best practices exchange, inclusive decision-making and public services co-production.
Mais quand on disait tout à l'heure que les news allaient nous échapper et qu'il fallait peut-être s'adapter au fait que les news allaient nous échapper, je pense que c'est quelque chose qu'il faudrait méditer pour peut-être accepter qu'on ne va plus maîtriser autant la communication qu'avant et que donc il va falloir trouver une méthode pour essayer de faire passer les messages de la façon la plus intelligente possible sur ces réseaux.
Who did create the expression Arab Spring or Twitter revolution, Facebook revolution? This is the mainstream media, not the internet. This is the press and the television. It's not the internet. The internet is a place. It's like a bar, a square. You have people that are discussing stuff, but you don't have somebody who is editorially taking the discussion out. I'm convinced that social media are tools. The content of social media are the people.
The human being needs to be at the core. We are connecting people. We shouldn't just focus on the process. Sometimes you have social media taking up from traditional media in the case of the Arab Spring, but we've also seen things the other way around. We are not dealing here with things which are against representative democracy. This is a complement and an aid to representative democracy.
The moment when somebody else says that you are doing a good job, that's the moment when I believe you. The moment when you tell me you're doing a good job, that's when I will become critical. Very simple principle, but today that's what's going on in the world, and that's where social media comes in and puts word of mouth on speed. We can manage word of mouth, and the starting point of creating positive word of mouth of your organizations is the inside part of the organization. It's the company culture. We don't have to be boring because we're in government. When it's about social media, a tweet doesn't have to look like a press release in 140 characters and then with all those small words that the normal person cannot understand anymore. Let's make it more with pictures. The first thing we all need to do is to define which mountain we're going to climb on. And after that, once we know the mountain we're going to climb on, let's focus on the next step.